This is the Henry's Child Podcast. Am I crazy? Or am I just raving?
Hey guys, Thom here. Welcome to episode 10 of the Am I Crazy or Am I Raving podcast. It's really the Henry's Child story. And today's episode is actually part 3 of the Between the Bands. Rich and Andy just finished a discussion talking about Memory of Green, where they got together with a handful of other musicians, including Dale Bradley, and had an awesome acoustic band that played around town in Eugene and recorded a couple songs. And in fact, in that episode, we played the Henry's Child song, Honestly. We're going to continue the conversation, like I said, in part 3. And here we have Andrew and Rich, who are going to talk about 2 bands that were really the runway for Henry's Child getting back together. Those are going to be Quoting Scripture and Mnemonic Machines. Without any further ado, here you go with Andrew and Rich.
So then you and I were a little lost. We weren't sure what to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we started showing up at the studio. I met the Cardwell boys.
Mm-hmm. Kris and Quinn.
Kris and Quinn Cardwell. Absolutely. Brought them in. We played a few times. I think the first incarnation we called ourselves Quoting Scripture, and nobody in the band was in their 30s.
Right.
2 guys in their 20s and 3 guys in their 40s.
Right, yeah.
Which was great for the energy.
Well, and Kris and Quinn played in, the Ineffectuals?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
So, I mean, I think that's the first time we've ever played with basically a grouping, a pair of people that came, siblings that came together as a package,
That's
deal.
right. And they had their own groove together. I mean,
Yeah.
It was interesting. You could tell they'd played together for years because Kris followed the guitar.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he'd been playing with Quinn in the garage, which meant that you and Kris bonded right away.
Yeah.
He heard your rhythms and what you were playing and immediately was creating his drum beats around that, the rhythms that you were playing with, which you can hear right away on Quoting Scripture and then especially on Mnemonic Machines. Those songs, the reason those songs sound, I want to say a lot of them sound like Henry's Child, is because Jeff followed you.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Right? And so Kris did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why I think we all knew there was something there, because when the 2 of you bonded, it elevated the song quality.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
And he's just a monster player. He
is.
really is.
Kris
I mean,
is good.
he's
Kris is good.
Yeah. He's got that.
Oh, here's a fact. When Doug quit, we sat around and tried to figure out who we wanted to play with us. And the first name that came up, the first person we asked was Kris.
Right.
He couldn't commit.
Right.
Right? And he was the first one we asked. So he turned us down. Kris Cardwell.
Bastard. No.
I'll just say it. He's a bastard.
Yeah, we knew that, though.
We love Toby. We love Toby.
Hell yeah. I mean, things are how they're supposed to be.
You are exactly right. But he can still be a bastard.
Hey, he'll always be a bastard. little bastard to me.
Sure. Oh, got it. Got it. And we at least have a good picture of him.
Yeah.
So, Quoting Scripture then, though, what was interesting was he wrote some songs, and a couple of them endured.
Yeah.
So on this album, we're playing The End of You, and we're playing Chameleon.
Right.
And those came out of Quoting Scripture.
Right.
Which there were a multitude of songs we wrote. I think I figured out Quoting Scripture, we had pieces and parts of over 18 songs. I don't know if you realized it was that many.
Oh, yeah. We
did a bunch of songwriting, and we still have one song from that era that I'd still like to revisit, and we talked about. I Hope He's There. I think that's a beautiful song.
That's a good song, yeah.
And we talked about replaying that and bringing it forward. Anyway, be that as it may, those guys had never played in a heavy band.
Right, yeah.
I'm not sure. That was also at the time when I didn't think personally that you could really rock at our age. Yeah. Remember? I had something around that, right?
Right.
And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But
you hadn't got to the point. You hadn't realized that teen angst turns into,
middle-aged angst.
Middle-aged angst, and then it's probably just raging against the dying of the light.
Sure. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what we're doing was significantly lighter.
Yeah.
Not knowing their skill set and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Correct. And then,
but let me say one thing.
Sure.
It may have been lighter, but it was still impactful. It wasn't.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like.
We're about to show that in a minute.
Right. Yeah.
We're about to show that in a minute.
Yeah.
Because what I loved about this is you and I and Jarrett spent all day in here in the studio working out this vocal.
Right.
And there's a lot going on. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the direction we were going. And you said once it was stuff like this is why people called us progressive.
I finally came to that realization because back in the original Henry's Child days, we would get every once in a while we'd get a write-up or something, and somebody would say that we were progressive. And
I remember that.
But at that point in time, progressive to me was Yes.
Yes.
Or old Genesis or ELP or something. And we didn't even have a keyboard player. It's like, how the hell can we do all that noodling, you know? No. Yeah, we're not, you know, and then, so I didn't see it. But then it started to dawn on me a little bit. Progressive just means doing anything.
Right.
You
and
know,
we were always willing to do anything.
Right. We would, I mean, honestly.
We wrote a country song, man.
Sure.
That's not progressive.
On the album with Headlights is Honestly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We never walked in there with like some sort of like, you know.
Pain, and listen closely.
Yeah.
And waiting for patience.
Sure.
Victim by choice.
Right. Yeah. Which a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because,
absolutely.
Boy, the bands that we played with back in the day, where they threw us onto bills, they had no idea what to do with this. The Springfield Metalheads and the Eugenian art rock group, grouping, they had no idea what to put us on. We played, I mean, still to this day, we played with Testament and Five for Fighting.
It's true.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So this is an example of that. This is a multitude of voices on this. Jarrett's amazing. This also gives you a great snapshot of where Jarrett's production skills have come to, because you'll hear this, and this is a single day. This is not a lot of work.
Right.
It's the end of the song "Time Is With Me."
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Again, the harmonies, man.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's interesting and appropriate that the last two songs we play both have all those harmonies, Honestly and Time Is With Me.
Yeah.
We're going to also have them on the new album. We're going to have Tawny Nestor, we'll have Landon Loomer, and, of course, the lead singer of 7 Second Circle.
Brian Forster.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so, again, we're really going to indulge ourselves in those big harmonies over the heavy music, which we really didn't do back in the day. Only Honestly did we really do that.
Right.
So this is going to be an interesting thing. Now, I know even since the mid-'90s, you were always into melody, but your entire hearing and listening for harmony took a giant leap. Around 2001, you said?
Yeah. I spoke in the last podcast how I got into the Beach Boys.
You didn't just get into the Beach Boys.
No, I completely dived into
the deep dive.
dove into the deep end of the Beach Boys.
Yes.
Partially because, there's just the fact that I kept hearing that Brian Wilson was a musical genius, and my brain kept going back to Little Deuce Coupe and
Barbara Ann.
Yeah, and Barbara Ann. It's like, well, really? Was Chuck Berry ever considered a musical genius? Indeed. No, he's an innovator.
Indeed.
Was he considered a musical genius? Well, I don't think so.
So you got way into it.
Yeah, so I decided to start with, Pet Sounds, which is the greatest album of all time. And it just went from there. And it's like, this is one guy. This is in one guy's brain. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. Literally. And
everything.
Just
he controlled everything.
Well, and then you can go back and you can listen. They have outtakes of the harmonies, and it's just crazy. They're just, we've talked about that little clip they have of the Eagles backstage doing their harmonies. Psh,
Same. Yeah. Oh, I know. I got you.
Just
I got
insane.
you. What's fascinating is, to me, is I have a little connection to the Beach Boys in that when I was a little kid, and I don't know how old I was. I mean, I played violin. I didn't listen to pop music.
Right.
Pop music was what was on the radio, but I didn't even have a radio. Driving around in the car, I don't know how old I was, 10 or 11. Remember the Sunkissed ad with Good Vibrations?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah?
Of course.
I heard that, and I told my mom I really like that song. And she says, "Oh, that's not the song." I said, "Well, what do you mean?"
Here's the song.
Well, she drove to the store and bought me the single,
Yeah.
the long one, the extended version.
Right.
I don't know, like I said, was that 11 or 12 years old? And that was late 70s, right? When that commercial came out, wasn't that late 70s?
Yeah, it was like 77, 78, somewhere
Yeah.
there, yeah.
So again, I was 10.
Not to date anything.
So the first single I ever remember owning was that song, and I must have played that 10 times a day.
So she got you the original full, yeah.
The extended version, like
What a
the 5-minute
great
version.
song to introduce yourself into, like, the music world, you know?
Indeed. So when you talked about doing harmonies,
Mm-hmm.
even things like Honestly, I've always been into it. I don't have the ear for it, you do, but it's something I really, really love. And
Yeah.
I feel like I know what sounds good. Like Time Is With Me sounds great. Those
Mm-hmm.
harmonies sound fantastic. Honestly sounds fantastic.
Right.
Yeah. So ready to come back full circle?
Sure.
And then quoting scripture fell apart,
Right.
which was okay. And we weren't sure what to do next. It was really, Kris kind of checked out,
Right.
and that was all right. And I
As you
believe
do when you're 25, 4 years old, or whatever
life
you were at the
happens.
time. Yeah.
I think
sure.
I talked about the passion of music before.
Sure.
So I think, though, it was a little after that time that there was a trip to California by Rich Clinton and Thom Tessendori, where Rich got too high eating a cookie and bought the new Soundgarden album.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which happened first.
They may have been, like, completely together.
And I just remember an urgent email that I needed to listen to that album.
Right. King Animal.
King Animal, fantastic album. I've been away too long.
Right.
Great song. I feel like that song was written for me. I'm
Yeah.
totally serious. I've been away too long. That's a beautiful tune.
Those guys, well, you know, Chris Cornell,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
tragic, but it
I
just, you know, it's still unbelievable. But when I heard that, I was like, they're older than us.
Yeah, and that was really good.
It was it's just struck a nerve. It's like, you know, it doesn't go away.
No.
You know, if you decide to make it go away, that's your choice. But as far as that feeling and that
It may lay dormant for 10 years,
right.
but eventually it's coming back.
Yeah.
And I'm firsthand. I mean, I love doing this. I'd do this full time if I could.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens.
Mnemonic Machines.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
So Quinn, though, was still kind of in.
Well, go back to the story. You know,
All right. So
I called you.
Yeah.
You know.
So yeah, you called me. Listen to King Animal. I did. It was like, Rich, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're like, it is. I'm like, it's great. So you said essentially, we're not too old to do this.
Right.
We can get heavy.
Yeah.
We can plug in the amplifiers.
Right.
Get the distortion pedals.
Never too old to bloody a fist.
I hear that. So, and you're right. But again, logistics, right? So I said, so hey, Quinn, will you play bass? Didn't think about Thom being 2 hours one-way drive away.
Right.
Because we were meeting here. We were going to do Mnemonic Machines. It was going to be in Eugene.
Right.
Right. So we couldn't really meet in Salem due to Quinn. And that was one of the reasons Kris quit. The younger generation, the tyranny of time and distance. They don't have as much willpower over that, perhaps.
Yep.
So then we have Quinn playing bass, you guitar, me singing. You're the one that spoke to Thom and said, hey, man, you want to do this? Tommy said yes. We spoke about this in the first or second podcast.
Actually, it was a little like this. I said, hey, Thom, we're kind of doing, yes. It was like that. He didn't even know what I was going to ask.
Fair enough. Now Tom's there. We got to find a drummer.
Right.
We tried a few drummers. Harder than it seems. Because Kris was living in Boston at that time. Even though we were practicing in Quinn's garage, Kris was living in Boston.
And remember, it's so funny going back, the stuff you go through sometimes as a musician. So we write these deceptively complicated songs.
Deceptively complicated.
So, you know, drummers
like
come
that.
in, oh, I can play that. And it's like, yeah, you realize this is not in standard time signature, you know. And it just threw like the first two drummers we had so bad that they would sit there and not know what to do.
That's right.
And then remember, Jung was with one of the other guys that came out, and he goes, I can do it. He did it.
That's right.
We actually recorded a few things with him.
We did a demo with John.
Yeah.
And then Kris came back from Boston, and we thought about it and remembered the creative energy we had with Kris. We booted out John.
Yep.
Because Kris said he would play with us. He heard the demo and he said, absolutely.
So if you're ever in a band with us and somebody wants to take you to Starbucks.
Or Elmer's.
Be prepared for bad
it wasn't
news.
Elmer's. It wasn't Elmer's. Where was Kris?
Jamocha's.
Yeah. Well, so it's pretty much coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't have coffee with us.
Yeah, don't have coffee. Well, there was one thing for certain is we had a chemistry with Kris that we did not have with John.
Yes.
Which is the reason that we made the decision to bring Kris back into the band.
Yep.
Just an energy. He's
creative.
Yeah, he's creative. He's a musical drummer, and that's something that we've always employed.
Yep. High compliment to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just kind of carried on, and we wrote Brace Yourself
and Soon,
which are actually going to be on the new Henry's Child album.
Both of the songs.
And then we wrote a song called Too Much Wine. A little tongue-in-cheek.
Well, it started out tongue-in-cheek, but got serious. That was if I remember correctly, it was over at Quinn's place, and Kris was working, I want to say, graveyard. And so he'd show up for morning practice. He'd been up all night long.
Right.
So he would drink Red Bulls and coffee just to stay awake for practice.
Right.
Which was some pretty cool dedication, actually. And Tommy went out there to help Kris warm up.
Yeah.
And I know I was inside talking to Quinn. I don't think you were playing yet. But the groove was cool. And I'm like, oh, and I said to Quinn, let's go listen to that. He's like, what? Well, come on, come with me. Went out there, and I think you were already out there. You just hadn't plugged in yet.
Right.
And you guys stopped for a minute. Tom and Kris stopped, and I'm like, no, keep going. You're nodding your head. Like, let's do this. And started that groove.
Yeah.
And that first lyric came out, and I think everyone started cracking up, and it was perfect for that groove.
Yeah.
And it got written from there. We wrote the whole thing in a day.
Right.
So
and it was a perfect example of what we were talking about before, how we were talking about putting harmonies all over everything.
Oh, the lush harmonies on this song.
The antithesis to that.
I know.
Yeah, this was a straight ahead rock song.
Let's give it a listen.
Yeah.
They want to drink Merlot, we're drinking Merlot. No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
It's never gonna
And if you don't know the difference, have a beer.
So, Merlot, huh? Is vodka a wine?
It's really all I ever drink, vodka.
Okay, well,
It seemed like a funny crack at the end of the song.
little potato wine. Yeah.
Strong potato wine, aged gracefully,
Right.
charcoal filtered. Well, that was a fun song.
It is.
And again, no limits to what we're going to sound like.
No. Why would we?
I like going from honestly to that.
Right.
And Time Is With Me. So I think that is the end of the projects in between.
I think so.
Because,
For now.
Because Mnemonic Machines had a Wow Hall show scheduled, supporting Hiding Jekyll for a CD release party.
Right.
About 8 weeks before the show, fell apart.
It did.
And there was a conversation. I think Greg mentioned it to me, and I think he mentioned it to you too. And said, "What if Henry's Child were to play?"
Right.
And you called me, and I said, "I'd do it, but I don't know how Doug feels about it."
Right.
You said you think he would. Unbeknownst to me, you'd already called Thom before you even talked to me, which I thought was pretty good. Who called Doug? Was that you or Thom?
I think I did.
You did?
Yeah.
And you said he actually surprisingly was in immediately.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, of course.
And we had 8 weeks to learn a whole set worth of songs.
Yeah.
And we did it. And we keep showing up.
Yeah.
We keep showing up.
It's the pay, right?
Yeah. Definitely the payoff.
Yeah.
It's
The payoff. Yeah.
Let's go back to that. It lay dormant, right? Lays dormant for 10 years, but yeah, wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care what it takes to create this. If it's a studio, if a bunch of people listen to this, which I really hope they do, I'd really like a lot of people to listen to this album. It's really, really good. And I know it.
I agree.
And if they don't?
Their loss.
Well, actually, if they don't, I'm not going to care because I'm going to keep showing up and making more music.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference.
Not anymore.
Well, it does, but it doesn't. It helps. It bolsters, but it doesn't stop anything.
Exactly.
You know? We are a boulder rolling downhill, whether you like it or not. Either move or get out of the way, or it's going to nail you.
We'd like to give you a ride.
Yeah.
Jump on
our boulder.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. But I think that covers the in-between.
I think so.
Hey guys, Thom here again. Thanks for listening to the third and final part of the Between the Bands episode. It's always fun to go back and revisit the things that we did between the incarnations of Henry's Child, and it once again really solidifies that this authentically is what we're meant to do right now, which is really great. And so first off, I want to thank you for listening this far and really contributing and being a part. To really contribute and be a part, please go to the iTunes or Google Play Store and give us a 5-star rating, in addition to hitting the subscribe button so that you get all of these podcasts as they come out and as they're generated out into the world. We're also 1 week away from our next show, which is going to be a really awesome one because it's the debut of our new drummer, Toby Lugo, and Jarrett Holly on guitar. So yes, Henry's Child now has 2 guitar players, and it sounds bigger and better than it ever has in the past. So I just wanted to give you a really quick reminder. We are 1 week away, so the show is actually the 23rd of March. It's going to be at a club called Merlin's that's located in Lebanon. There are no tickets. There's no pre-sale tickets, and there's really no cost at the door. Because this is a benefit for our friend Jason Rowe, what Dave Wilson, who's the promoter, is doing is he's actually putting out a tip jar. Basically, you name your price. That's the really great thing about it. So get there early so you can hang out with us, you can hang out with Jollymon, and you can hang out with Hiding Jekyll, and all the rest of the really great bands that are going to be performing at this cancer benefit. And I want to thank you for listening. See you next week at Merlin's.